What's up, guys? Atabark here, and today we are going to do something that we have not done in a very long time. We are, at least for the time being, one time, maybe more if you guys want more of it, I am going to resurrect and talk with you guys about a series that I started way back when in Warlords of Draenor. And that is where I ask the question, and we have the series where we sit down and say, you want to make a guild. And this is very simply where I hopefully impart onto you guys some of my wisdom, some of my knowledge, some of the things that I know to get your juices flowing so that you can think about things before you create a guild, while you're creating a guild, and maybe even if you are the guild leader or an officer and you've been in a situation, you've been in a guild for, 10 years like myself. Maybe there's a few things you haven't thought of. Maybe there's a few things that I haven't thought of. And we can get that ball, we can get that discussion rolling. So, what I want to talk about today is something, for lack of a better word, I don't want to say controversial, but maybe a little risque. So, I've talked in the past, and I'm looking here, the past 8 episodes in this series. I've talked about bringing yourself up with your raiders, making sure that you have good, solid people, that you have good, solid leaders, that you have, people that are doing specific roles and jobs, that you are pushing yourself, and that you're pushing your guild, and that you have, all these things in place. But we have not talked about not even probably, but the most important part of a guild, the people in general. It doesn't matter, how, how good your officers are. It doesn't matter anything else. If you don't have people in your guild, you don't have a guild. But what I want to talk about today, like I said, maybe isn't very politically correct, maybe is a little bit controversial, maybe it's a little bit risque, etc. But I wish I didn't have to talk about it, but I think that I do. And that is the fact that there are going to be a wide variety of people within your guild. Now, what I mean by this is the following. Take my guild, for example. You have your guild leader, normal white dude. I work in IT, a veteran. I've deployed several times. In the Marine Corps, I've seen the world. I've been married. I have a kid. I have a house. But then we have, guys that are 16, 17. We've had guys in the guild that are 55, 60. We've had and do have homosexuals in the guild on both sides of the fence, men and women. We've had, people that are married in the guild, people that are black, people that are white. In my guild right now, we have an Native American. We have a Pakistani guy. We have another Middle Eastern guy. Not sure what his descent is. Some black guys, some white guys, some Hispanic guys. We have a wide variety of things. And, seeing on the news the hatred and the stupidity and the ignorance, the simple ignorance, when it comes to the color of your skin is different than mine, or you talk differently than me, or you believe in something that I don't believe in, or that, whatever. People are hating. And what I want to implore to you, my guild leaders, my officers, regardless of what you're trying to do, regardless of whether you are trying to be that number one, to kick Method down and take that number one spot in the world, or you just are okay doing, normal runs whenever people are on. It doesn't matter. What I implore you guys to do is to stop worrying or not worry at all about this stuff. And I would say, I would speak for the vast majority of the raiding community and say, most people aren't going to care, what you do in your bedroom, the color of your skin, et cetera, what you believe in. Most people aren't. However, I can tell you guys from experience that some will. Now, I will share with you guys a story as an example. Now, I will preface this by saying that there's going to be some harsh language coming up, and it is very derogatory. But I say it only to share a story and to prove a point to you guys. When we started out doing Nighthold, when we started out doing Emerald Nightmare Mythic, one of the officers, and I've talked about this guy, but one of my officers was a homosexual black man. And nobody had, as this story leads on, most people did not have a problem with this guy. He was, like I've mentioned before, he was a character. He was very loud. He had a lot of stories. He was funny to be around. And you guys have seen the videos where, that was his outer shell. But that's what we're talking about here. We're not going to go into the details of him as an individual, but he was a homosexual black man. Cool. Nobody really cared. Most people really didn't care, rather. However, we had recruited this one hunter. And this guy was decent, maybe slightly, very slightly above average. However, his biggest fault, above average as far as DPS, his biggest fault was he sucked at mechanics. And we consistently would pull him aside. Hey man, you're standing in this crap. You're dying to this. Just move out of the way. Disengage, whatever. And his excuse was always the same. I've popped my cooldowns. I'm not going to move. Healers need to heal me while I'm, blowing up this boss. And it was constant. Dude, you're standing in shit. You're standing in shit. You're standing in shit. Get out. And then finally it came to a head where one night we were doing, I want to say Mythic Ren Farrell, I believe. And, this dude's just dying to everything. And my officer called me, dude, you're fucking dying to this crap. Move out. And he blew up. You fucking fag. And I hate to use the language, but calling him the N-word and, all this stuff. You're not going to fucking tell me what to do. Oddly enough, I can say fuck, but it's just the other stuff, whatever. But just this derogatory, because he was a homosexual, because he was a black man. And those that were there can attest to the fact that I don't care, if you are in the wrong, you're in the wrong, but there are certain lines you don't cross. And for me, I don't care what you look like, what your skin color is. I don't care what you do in the bedroom. I don't care what you believe. As long as you're not harming anybody and you show up to raids on time, I don't give a fuck what you do outside of that. And I had to then step in and go to a place where I didn't want to and don't like to be, which is not fun, happy Chris that leads the raids and, hey man, you're standing and stuff and let's give out loot, but mean Marine Chris where I yell and, it's a place that I don't like to go to. And I went there. And what I'm getting at and what I'm telling you guys is, as leaders, as people in positions of power, if you are wanting to start a guild, if you're wanting to be a guild leader or even an officer, there's a few things you have to keep in mind. First and foremost is whatever your prejudices are, whatever your bigotries are, whatever your biases are, and I don't care who you are, you have them. I have them. We all have them. You need to stop, though. You can't go, oh, well, because he's this person, because she's gay, I'm not going to give her loot, or doesn't matter. They are all equal in the raid. It doesn't matter what they've done outside of the raid. As long as they're not a detriment, and these are words I live by, as long as you're not a detriment to my raid, you're welcome to be there. And the second thing is, if there are people around you, within your guild, within your raid, that are being prejudiced, they're being racist or sexist, you need to stop that shit. Because there's nothing worse than being on the receiving end of this. Where you're being called these derogatory names. And one of two things is happening. Either your guild leadership is not taking care of it, not getting rid of it, or worse yet, is taking part in it. And both of those things will kill your appetite to raid as a raider. And as a guild leader, you are setting the worst possible example. And we've talked about this in the leadership traits, setting the worst possible example. Because people are going to go, that dude has a lot of hate in his heart. That girl, she's not a person I want to be around because, I have a cousin or a brother or sister, I would say mom or dad, but that really wouldn't make sense. But, somebody in my family or a friend that's, this, that, or, in a minority. And you're making fun of somebody just like them. Not cool. And they're not going to want to be around you. So what I ask for you guys, if you want to be that type of person that is in charge of and is starting or is running a guild, Look past color. Look past belief. Look past sexual orientation. Don't care about that crap. Did they show up to raid? Did they do their job? Did they die to fire? If you can answer yes, yes, no, give them a raid spot. Give them gear. They're part of the team. Get rid of the hatred. And just keep killing bosses. Now, that's all I have to say about that. You guys have been awesome. The channel is still growing. Holy shit. Every day I look at the channel, more and more subscribers. And I know it may be a paltry number compared to whoever off the top of YouTube. But you know what? I'm having fun, and thank you guys so much. If you got anything to say, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Comment in the comment section down below and say, hey, I agree, I disagree. I like this, don't like this. Until next time, guys, I'll see ya.